vacation care, and I just finished my day where being with the children, bit of paperwork actually, so not with the children too much. But there's quite a few things going on. Obviously, there's this low level feeling in terms of children with technology, with their own devices. There's all these things that are changing in different countries about whether they should be on social media and access to phones. And really, at this point in time, parents are navigating a world in which they've never experienced before. And so, honestly, I do not envy them. I'm in a work environment and I have those boundaries where I'm able to set boundaries with children when we do our vacation care program. But it's really difficult for parents to have to set those boundaries. And funnily enough, I had this conversation with a parent today at a cafe, mentioned, they have a 12-year-old and they've been up the last few nights at 1 o'clock screaming for their phone and wanting to start messaging and things like this. And I think they were at their wits' end. The guy in the cafe knew that I work for a vacation care close by, and he was like, ask her. And I'm very much of the thinking that if there's something that's a current issue, if there's something where it's unclear how we manage it, I will deep dive and hyper focus and try and understand more about it, because I'm like, I don't understand this, so what I'm going to do is try and understand more. And so, yeah, it's obviously the things that I use in work are very different for parents, but I was like, you can set the expectations of what, how we use the phone, and that it's there's respect, there's responsibility, there's a two-way street. What are your expectations? Are you able to view it? Are you gonna charge it in your room? But I was like, you also have to give choices, to give them an opportunity. But I was like, what's happening is it's not gonna work, when she's screaming and she's emotional and all of this. So sort of gave a few tips about brain state, also about expectations, and it was like, talk at a calmer time in more detail about that. I suppose this is, all about digital safety as well. It's really amplified at the moment. We're having to do a lot of. I'm very focused on child protection with my staff. However, there's this case in Victoria with this male educator, and so we've had to, rejig, like rethink, and how do we ensure that we're doing best practices? Like, we are, obviously, but it's like at the end of the day, we can be doing things and it's so easy for things to look a certain way. And so it's educating my staff, not only like what are our practices and how do we educate children with protective behaviours as well, about what's online and how we communicate, but also how do we support children through our own practices in how we engage with devices. And the only reason we're really engaging with devices when with the children is so we can, send some photos, collect some information from the children, do a survey, see if they liked it. And so we've had to sort of update our practice in terms of we've chosen to, and I've directed my staff to say, let's make sure we're narrating what we're doing. One, keeps us accountable. Two, the children then understand, and then they're more likely to speak up, because sometimes they just pull the phone out. I'm like, no, this is a conversation. If you're in a work setting, the staff will communicate to me if they have to use their phone, etc. But I think it's then, we then have to be accountable for that as well. And two, it then, was I 2 or 3? Who knows? But then it allows us to be, if members of the public see us, if we happen to have parents or guardians coming to collect children, then they can hear what we're doing on devices. It's not just like we're just on devices, it's like we're showing. Sorry, excuse me. But we are being very clear by narrating our actions and being accountable for what we're doing. And yeah, it's it's a really bizarre time, and I think it's really important to talk about. And when things like this happen, obviously people have these really extreme reactions because what they want to do is protect, right? And so we do this in terms of what we say, like governments and childcares or whatever association is involved in, the drama. And we swing and we go, oh my gosh, no, this is what we're going to do. But it's also like, when you think about it, it's almost that emotional reaction where something happens and you go, I'm going to, you say to your child, I'm going to take your phone away because you did that. And it's that emotional response. So it's that emotional response to this scenario. And it's, that fast, no, we're not going to do that anymore. That's it, done. And I think we've got to be really mindful of how we navigate things like this. It is about protection. Sometimes protection doesn't mean completely removing it. Sometimes it is. Sometimes we have to fully remove something because it is too dangerous. However, we also have to consider that sometimes it's about us doing the risky things with children so then we can best support them. And so they're still children, even if you think, oh, they've got this and I can leave them on the device. We have to be more mindful of being with children when they're doing that. And so then we know exactly what they're on, rather than completely removing it. Of course, you might have certain boundaries with regards to what they're accessing. And obviously when I talk about that, I'm not talking about educators and what that man did. But I'm talking about, we do this, so then we're aware of what they're seeing. And so then we can have those discussions and we can protect them by supporting them to have language and discussions to protect themselves. Because otherwise they're not going to be prepared for the world. Age appropriate, but we need to understand that this is a complex space. We did not grow up in it. It's ever evolving. The world is never really going to be the same again in terms of what people are exposed to. It's continuously going to be. And so it's about how do we navigate this effectively. And this is a topic I'm really passionate about and could deep dive into. But, I think it's important to have these discussions and to understand it and not just, as I say, be curious. I always say this to my staff. I'm like, can you be curious? Ask a few more questions. What's going on here? Sometimes a child will do something and we're like, what's going on? And so we've got to be curious with the children. Be like, oh, why, because then that allows for critical thinking with our children. It allows us to stop and pause and to reflect. Because maybe they mention things that they've heard online, but it doesn't mean that they fully understand it. But then it allows us to have that conversation. It's like, do you understand what it fully means? Oh, okay, that's your understanding. Do you actually realise it means this? So if it means that, is that something you want to be saying or sharing? We have children who now are more exposed to some of the horrific things, horrific language, just bombarded with information. But at the same time, these children have been brought up with the language of emotions and understanding consent and sort of knowing their own boundaries and being able to stand up for themselves, which is pretty powerful. So if we can shape and scaffold their experience, how much can they do in this world? How much power do they have? So it's a fine line, and it's about supporting them. Gen Alpha, pendulum, one of two ways, and it's, we're there to guide them. They're still children. They still have developing brains. Their prefrontal cortex does not fully develop until they're 25. And so they can be guided. yeah, powerful stuff.